so much. As you know, you are amazing, and thank you to Tom and Ellie for the coffee.
And we can't have Chase sitting there without her Rom, Max Grodénchik. No, you're sitting here. Mr. Casey Biggs. I think this is his first Star Trek cruise. Let's welcome Cirroc Lofton.
Cirroc is actually still in bed. This is his hologram.
We have two beautiful ladies backstage ready to come out. The first, Miss Nana Visitor. And Miss Terry Farrell. Welcome, everyone. This is exciting. It's like old home week, huh? So, I know you all have a lot of questions, so I'm just gonna ask these guys one question, then we'll open it up to you. Chase, can you tell us a little bit about your t-shirt and your coalition?
Oh goodness, right off the bat?
Yes, right off the bat. You're
Well,
right
thank
here.
you. I will say this. This is a nonprofit that I founded in 2013, meant to embody your hearts and souls, the heart and soul of Star Trek and of Deep Space Nine, where we stand up for people who can't stand up for themselves, or as well as we can all do it together. And so this is toward creating a world where we can all live long and prosper. Two more quick things. We work to end bullying by teaching mental health and teaching healthy identity and resilience and empathy. We work in schools, and we are the mental health program for children and parents of YMCA USA nationwide. And one more quick thing, the way we built this is through your donations and buying t-shirts, $25 or $30 at a time, an act of empathy saying, I believe in this statement and I believe in the work that this nonprofit is doing. So thank you, this is because of you.
So Max, you came the furthest to join this cruise. You live across the pond, as they say. Can you tell us what you've been doing at home? Any projects or what you're working on at home in Austria?
If I say no, will you put the next question to Casey?
No. I'll ask it again.
We're in Austria. We live a couple of doors down from Julie Andrews. No, it's a Sound of Music joke.
I got
It's a Sound of Music joke. She got the hills are alive with the Sound of Music. What do we do there? Well, we're raising a child. I have a 9-year-old daughter. Is that for my daughter or is that for me? Oh, thank you. I'll tell her. I think she may be here somewhere. What else? I get occasional work. I go into Vienna to audition for things once in a while, and they say, thank you for coming. I said, well, I came all the way from the United States. They said, well, in that case, thank you for coming. And yeah, people ask me what the difference is between over there and over here. And for me, it's a difference I live in a small town. I never lived in a small town before. And here I've always lived in New York or San Francisco or Los Angeles. So the difference for me is just that it's a small town, and small town life to me is what I know of it so far is very different from big town life.
Thank you. Now that wasn't that difficult, was it?
Ideally, I'd like a house in the country and an apartment in the city. So.
Thank you.
You must be rich.
I said ideally.
Thank you, Max. So some of you I've heard come up to Casey Biggs on the cruise and say, I've seen your Paso Wine Man commercials and ads. Casey, you want to talk about your Paso Wine Man fame?
Who's seen them? Anybody? You can't sleep tonight. Go on YouTube with Paso Wine Man in. And for a number of years, I was the face of Paso Wine around the world. And they're hilarious. It's like the most interesting man in the world meets the, what's the other one? Old Spice guy. Thank you. So I'm the most interesting wine man in the world. Right? No, it's great. And it put Paso on the map in a way. It was wonderful to really be a part of that community and all of that. You know, I wanted to say a couple things that I've done that people can watch. This great series on Netflix about Colin Kaepernick. You know who Colin Kaepernick was? It's called Colin in Black and White. It's a wonderful, very disturbing series, I think, that deals with racism and all kinds of really interesting things about when Colin was growing up, because he's 17 in the film, and there's about 6 or 7 episodes. And then this other really cool film that's coming out in November, that right now they're calling it Canterbury Glass. And get this cast, right? Me, Robert De Niro, Margot Robbie, Christian Bale, Anya Taylor-Joy, you know who she is, the Queen's Gambit thing, Chris Rock, Zoe Saldana. I mean, everybody in the flippin' world. It was almost Max Grodénchik, but then he turned it down. So. That'll be coming out in November, but that's going to be a really fantastic film. It takes place 1918 to 1930, so that'll be really fun. So yeah, that's sort of some of the things I've been doing. And there we go. Oh, I'm also writing a series about a detective that lives in wine country. It's called Dash Rambler, and of course, who's Dash Rambler? Right, there you go. He drinks, he has a vineyard, so that's a good thing. All right, carry on.
Okay, so, Cirroc Lofton, this is your first Star Trek cruise, I understand, right? So, please tell us how much fun you've had, and will you come back?
Yeah, I've had a lot of fun. I think maybe even too much fun. Not sure what the limit is, but I'm pushing it. This has been a real joy, just getting back together with everybody and actually intermingling with some of the new cast members and just all of us building our bonds together, all of us building our bonds together. It's been very special. I think this is, you know, I'm gonna say this tentatively, but this is the best way to enjoy a Star Trek convention. I think it's through the cruise. You agree? Okay. So you mix vacation, you mix Star Trek, you mix all of it together, and it just becomes an amazing experience. And then the alcohol helps too, right?
Actually, I heard next year they're doing just the entire cruise is the Cirroc Lofton cruise. He's the only guest, and so he's going to party.
Not at all. No, I love partying with you guys, and it's been just amazing. And the excursions off the ship have been wonderful. Love swimming in these oceans and enjoying those beaches, having drinks and celebrating with friends. It's been awesome. So thank you guys for having me, and I will be back.
So, how many of you were on the cruise in 2020? So So you know that we were on the ship filming a Voyager documentary, which is still in production. Thank you. But now there's another documentary and book in production that you've probably been seeing on the ship as well, and heard Nana talk about it. Do you want to tell us about your project, Nana?
Yes, well, it's called A Woman's Trek, and it's about women in Trek, and the cultural amber that we found ourselves as we were filming in the 60s, in the 90s, and you know, and what those cultural pulls on us were, but also what our characters inspired and opened people's minds to, possibilities, hope, all these different things. And it's really been a journey.
And Miss Terry Farrell, you haven't cruised with us for a while, but are you glad to be back?
That would be if they took the words right out of my mouth. I'm so happy to be back. I love you too so much. I would say this beautiful person helped me through a very difficult time. Talking about opening doors. We've opened some huge doors together, but she has held my hand the whole way. I'm a better person knowing her, and I'm a better person having all of you in my life. Star Trek has given all of us, so much in giving us you. And I know all of us are so grateful to have. We're gonna be 30 years ago this summer, we all met each other the first time to start telling you Deep Space Nine's story, right? So when I think about that and how blessed we are, and we all say it, but it's true because we're coming up on an anniversary. This is our school reunion. This is our family reunion, and you're part of it. But without you, we wouldn't get to have it. So thank you for having us on your ship.
Terry's absolutely right. I mean, without you, we wouldn't be here. So thank you so much. And next year, we will be celebrating on this ship the 30th anniversary of Deep Space Nine. It's really very, very exciting. So I know that a lot of you have questions, and unless anybody else has anything they'd like to throw out, I'd like to open it up to you guys for questions and answers, please, to any of us up here.
So as the new cast members are coming in with Strange New Worlds and Discovery and Picard, what advice would you have for the new people that are going to join us for the rest of their life?
I have to say, speaking to so many of them, they it's just the way it should be. They have stood on the shoulders of the people before and gained that information. They seem so aware and so responsible. They have this sense of responsibility toward what goals their characters have, what responsibility they have as the people shepherding those characters to you. So I think they're on it. I really do. I agree.
Yeah, I think it also, I would say just be grateful for what you're doing. And also what's interesting to me, look, we've got Walter on the ship and George on the ship. I mean, these guys, as you say, stood on their shoulders, and hopefully they will stand on our shoulders and the shoulders of everything. And to that point directly, I've said it before, it's fascinating, and I've talked about this, Star Trek has touched so many people in so many ways, and 50 years from now, there's not going to be a Friends convention, ER convention, or even whatever you call it, CW convention. there still will be Star Trek convention 50 years.
I would also add to that number one, I didn't expect all of this when I first started. I don't know about you guys. I wasn't really aware of this side of the world. I was still trying to get the on-camera stuff and do my part.
We're 4 years old, for Christ's sake.
And get my bottle ready. But I'll say this, because of social media and the way that people are able to communicate directly, speak for themselves, I would say that, to be careful about what you put out there. Because luckily I did a lot of stupid things that are not memorialized. And so I would say to be careful about that for the young guys, but they totally get it, and I feel like they're on pace faster as far as just blending in than I was trying to find my way into this side of the universe. But they're just hit the ground running, and we support them because it's all good for everybody involved. So yeah.
Which one of you guys, how many of you guys were at Ken's rave the other night? Right? And I felt like it so beautifully embodied loving Star Trek and living Star Trek. And the way that cast, and I don't know the Picard cast or really any of the other current casts, but the way that cast bonds together and we're so there for Ken in an all-for-one way, in a you are not alone way, in a we're standing with you forever way, was so beautiful and such an embodiment of what these stories mean. And yes, I would have to say, I agree, they've got it. They're a beautiful cast without ego, without separation, just here for each other and for these stories.
But it is a little weird when some of them have no idea who the hell we are.
Thanks for topping that, Casey.
Thank you for your question. Yes.
And why should they? I mean,
No, it's the makeup, Casey. You have so much makeup.
Oh, that's what that was the one.
Yes, please.
I've enjoyed Deep Space Nine, especially out of the entire Star Trek, that's where from the start. And that got me motivated to be part of the fundraiser for the documentary. I really appreciate the way that you all opened up in that documentary. And Terry touched on how like 30 years ago, you guys all met for the first time. Can you talk a little bit about what it was like to come together again for that documentary filming?
well, it was over, how long did it take? 6 years?
It did. It took a long time.
It was,
It took 3 years to get to the editing part.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's always amazing to know how long films, or even a Broadway show takes 7 years to actually get on the stage. It's a long process. So we got very used to seeing them film and be around us. And I think by that time, we'd had a moment to process what the show meant to us and to be able to have some distance from the actual experience and actually some sleep, because I was so sleep deprived the whole time. It was unbelievable. So to be able to pull back and go, oh, now I can actually see you and talk to you, and the conventions and the ships have been great for that we have this moment to speak without 2 hours of sleep and really get to know each other deeply. So it was great. That process was wonderful and fun, always fun.
Say something, Matt. Grand Nagus. You're in charge.
Chase, if I may, for your I like to ask if your charity ever has in the past or has yet to do something specific that would help, children and adults who are on the autism spectrum.
Thank you for asking. That's such a wonderful question. Right now, we have in our work, in our lesson plans, work to teach children inclusion for people who are neuroatypical, and that includes people on the spectrum, people with physical handicaps or disabilities, people in every way. We teach that there is no them, there is only us, and that just like Star Trek, differences are just an opportunity to learn more about people and to cherish difference. So in that, we're doing that. We're looking toward doing something like that in the future that's more specific, but we're only managing what we can do well, and that part isn't happening yet, but we hope to.
Thank you.
So discussed. Thank you.
During the pandemic, I was able to watch and do a deep dive into Deep Space Nine. And I walked into the Visitor episode not knowing what to expect. And I've never cried so much and been so impacted by an episode. And just so many themes of father-son relationship, a coming together of chosen family. Like Kira being a surrogate parent, and then Jadzia Dax, Dr. Bashir Nog, coming in to support Jake. I was just curious about what you all thought, and what was that like for you, not just for Cirroc and Terry, and also for the rest of the cast, but for the rest of the cast as well, like to be a part of that episode and what that meant to you and the impact to, I presume, many, many folks and fans, that episode of The Visitor.
Very special episode. When I first read the script, I remember just teardrops hitting the page, and I was thinking, how am I going to pull this off, this old Jake thing? I don't know if I can do that, but I do know that this story is wonderful, and the idea of a parent kind of outliving their child and in that fashion was something that really ripped at me. And I think the hardest challenge for me on the show was putting myself in a mental space of having to accept losing my dad in that fashion. So that was the most difficult scene for me to prepare for, just like having to put myself in that space, really imagining that loss. And with Kira and Jake, there were many times where throughout the course of the show, Kira kind of gave me a hug. And I think at the end of the show, at the last, I remember that moment there, and where you come to comfort me. And I remember saying, wow, that's great how we have that relationship where and it was really everybody on the show kind of, as a community, looking out for Jake or making sure he doesn't get into too much trouble or keeping an eye on him. And I felt that it was important to have that. It was also great to see, Captain Nog in that episode too. Just as a small aside, for Aron Eisenberg, who really means a lot to me and gave me the opportunity to do this podcast with him, The Seventh Rule. He really opened my eyes and started me on this journey to get to know Star Trek a lot better, get to know what we did, the work that we did. And it's interesting because I used to just see us as, just fellow actors working together. But when I started to watch the show, I said, oh, wow, you guys are amazing. You guys are amazing. I was like, Damar is amazing. Like, I I really hate this guy. and you know, and I watched Nana, and I watched you as Kara, and I said, has there ever been a female character who can kick ass this well and also look so great in a negligee? I've never seen it. And just all of you, Max, the growth, the playing, almost like you're playing dumb, but you're really smart. And I love I just love the dynamic of these characters. Terry, I watched you in the episode where Worf, was going to leave you in the jungle because you were dying. And he had to go and meet with somebody to get some information that would save millions of lives. And he made a decision at some point to turn around and get you. And I was just blown away by how amazing you were in that episode. I said, wow, I'm just feeling for all of these characters. And Chase, I mean, you light up the screen. You own the scenes you've been in. And the relationship, watching the budding relationship between you and Max when he organizes a strike and says, I'm gonna fight my brother on this. And you just, being in love with that, principle and seeing that. I see the show in a different way. I also see the work that you've done and why everybody here is, a fan of yours, because I too am a fan, having watched the show, and I no longer see you just as, a friend or co-worker, but I also see the magic of the art form and the craft that you have put into, and I really appreciate that I was able to work alongside all of you. Renee Auberjonois, who's not here, Armin Shimmerman, Diego Fabio, Alexander Zagor, Colin Meany. It just the list goes on, and it's just a real honor. So, yes, episodes like The Visitor are just one in a long line of really exceptional episodes that were put together not only by great writing, but great performances. So, thank you very much.
Cirroc.
Makes me cry. We see how you guys come back to conventions and cruises year after year and all the time, and after 30 years, it's clear how well you all still love and support each other, and we love to see that. I'm always inspired by how well you and all castmates from across all shows, just how well you all love each other. What is one kind of piece of advice that we could all take to just be more intentional about the way we love and care for one another, so that, we can hopefully have cherished relationships like what you guys have, having been hired to work together 30 years ago and still come together like this. So just what's one way to be more intentional about that?
I'll say that pause. One thing that we have gotten is time to hear each other's stories, time to appreciate why someone is the way they are. And again, hearing so many stories in this week, the stories are so different. Everyone comes from such different experiences, unconscious thoughts, conscious thoughts. People have come so far to cultivate themselves, and just pausing before reacting, just pause and listen. That's my advice.
I would like to say acceptance. Start with yourself, your flaws, everything you love, like, dislike about yourself. Acceptance, accept who you are. And then it makes it so much easier to accept all your friends and all the phases that they go through. Because I think maybe it helps too to be a parent, because you watch your child go through phases, and your friends that you love, we're all going through phases too, So acceptance.
And cherishing. really, you know, Star Trek, love Star Trek, live Star Trek, and it's not about gatekeeping or keeping anybody away from the table. Just because someone else has a seat at the table doesn't invalidate your seat, you know? There's room for all of us, and it's so special and wonderful and fun to uphold who each other is.
I would add quickly respect in every level of your existence. Respect yourself, respect your coworkers, respect your children, respect your parents, respect your life, respect the earth, respect. You can carry that throughout. Because coming onto a show like this, I mean, I didn't know any of these people, but the quality of their work was extraordinary, and it lifted me up, and hopefully I helped lift them up. And so I think through respect we can really do that, which is wonderful with what Chase does, her whole coalition thing. It's about respecting human life, you know. So I would say respect is big.
How cool was it for everyone to have their own action figure? Lolita, I'm sorry. Unless
Oh, but I have one. You haven't seen it?
I have not seen your action figure.
I actually played with my action figure. I don't know. You guys were already adults, but I was still doing G.I. Joe versus Jake, and it was pretty awesome. It always was.
I would like to say that I gave my niece, was very tiny when this all happened for all of us, and I think she was about 3, and she thought her father looked so much like Avery. I was actually just telling Cirroc, there's a picture of her looking at Avery, well, when they visited at Paramount, because it was like, she knew Dad wasn't on the trip, but that guy looked just like Dad. Didn't smell like Dad, but looked just like Dad. But she was playing with them once, me and Avery, so she, Aunt T, and Dad. And she lost us. She lost it. She thought she lost Aunt T. Like I didn't exist anymore. They found me in the couch. And all was well. And that night, don't you know, I was back on TV. So she had saved me. Adorable.
Max, what do you think about your action figure?
My action figure, I was excited about it. I wanted them to put on my signing table. So there was a place in Long Beach that I drove down to that had them, and they must have had like 40 of them there. I said, I'll take 6, and then I'll be back for more. When I came back for more, there were no more. That's what I remember. It was just gone the next week I got there.
What did you learn from them?
Don't put off till tomorrow. and stuff like that there.
Thank you. The only thing that troubled me was when I'd find Major Kira discounted, you know.
The dollar bucket?
Yeah. Oh, that was a fun question. Thank you for that question.
And I'm curious, is there a particular episode that you like? So the next time I go back and I'm talking with my friends or my family and they're like, why? I can say, well, you know what? This is Terry Farrell's favorite. This is Fox.
That's a great question. You want to jump in?
Darmok.
Use your mouth.
Darmok. It's the way they worked. It's the word it's the way they work together. Because working together with each other was the whole goal of the existence of that species. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Darmok, and how much I don't know the name of the species. They put so much energy into communicating, and that's what I like about it.
Tamarians. Oh, what's the name name of the episode?
Darmok.
Oh, yeah.
I would say Duet, because it's what our writers did so well, and it's the episode that just knocked me over as an actor and made me rethink everything, myself.
I liked Far Beyond the Stars. And you know, my character Jimmy had one of these kind of hats on, selling foxhole. So, but I think it told a very important story that we still have to deal with it, as a society, about police brutality and black people and how we need to overcome that. But I also think it tells a beautiful story about the dreamer and the dream, and how all of us are dreamers living our dreams. And so I would say, if you have to watch an episode, that would be the one I would say, watch this one. Because you don't need to know anything about Star Trek. You can watch that.
Chase?
I would say Far Beyond the Stars. But also, with the time I have here, I just want to recount a real life story that parallels yours in a way. I'll tell you quickly, there's a group of Klingons in New Jersey who are currently EMTs, but they were soldiers in the Iraq War and in the Gulf War during the run of the show. And they told me that when they were out on a mission, like fighting on the front lines, and they would come back to camp, if there was an episode of Deep Space Nine that had arrived on VHS, they would watch it before they would take a shower or eat or sleep, because it reminded them of what was important: peace and each other, and taking risks for the right reasons, for the sake of truth and love, and that I think is why I watch, because these stories are that important to people. They parallel that truth.
Thank you.
On one hand, I would say Rejoined, because I think that also is really relevant to right now about, it speaks to the LGBTQ community. I know there's more initials, I'm sorry I don't have them all down. And, but I think for levity, when people aren't into Star Trek, I think Trials and Tribble-ations is really fun. It's just fun. And it brings both of the original series and Deep Space Nine into play. But it just that it's fun and we're all playing in the episode. Like, that's the first one I had my son watch, right? Because Rejoined can kind of be heavy, right? It's very, I mean, it makes me cry. But I also think Far Beyond the Stars is probably the most relevant for right now, too.
Casey?
There's a few of them come to mind. One of them, I think, was with Terry and Michael. I think it was you guys that Dorn killed Wei-Yun, and I look up and I said, "You guys, I let you go." I said, "Well, you should have killed Damar. There's only one Damar." And then the other one is when Darling Renee directed, where I got to stop drinking that damn Canar. But also, What You Leave Behind was such a great ending of a series. I mean, I got to die a hero, and we all got to hang out in Jimmy Darren's nightclub, and all of that was a wonderful, wonderful series. That's the episode.
Thank you. I hope that gave you some help.
How you approach that opportunity to continually carry forth the development of character building and that sort of thing over time, and how that affected you and each other.
Well, I think we got to hand it to the writers on this. I mean, at least with me and some of the other people that I worked with on the show, they watch what you do, they see what you do well, and they make it better. You know, and they keep writing for it. I was supposed to do one day. I did on the show for 5 damn years. You know, and it was an art that they did. And they were so. Our writers were so good, and they were like, weren't we like the bastard child or something of the whole bunch of them, because they left them alone so they could do what they wanted to do. And And that's what gave you guys, and gave us this incredible arc of storytelling that was unique and interesting. And yeah, it was on a static place, but my God, how interesting were those things. And what you say about it is, it's Shakespearean in a way that it's very melodramatic. You're dealing with life and death and life and death. What?
The high stakes.
That's good.
The high stakes.
That's a good point.
I think Casey's right, and I think we should all give Ira Stephen Bear a big hand. Honestly, working in my writing department with Ira for all those years, and with Ron Moore and Renee Echevarria, this show, these guys are wonderful actors, but it really always begins with the writing, and those guys were amazing, all of them.
I just really quickly would add that what makes it so amazing, in my opinion, is that nothing really was black and white in this clear-cut way. People that you didn't like had redeeming qualities. People that you liked had made some difficult decisions that were sometimes questionable. And I think that's what is more true to our everyday lives. We all have the good and bad side of us. We try to do as much good as we can, but sometimes that bad side comes out. And I feel like that's a reflection of the show. They made characters that you sometimes really rooted for, even though they were the bad guy, you know? And I just love the dynamics of what Ira and the writing team did as far as making things layered and textured.
I heard Avery say, and it was so true, yeah, we're not going anywhere, but sometimes the distance between heart to heart is a huge journey in itself. And that is what our show did. It was about relationships. It was about a whole bunch of diverse living beings figuring it out. And no, that's not always smooth. Can't expect it to be. It can be uncomfortable. But that was our big journey.
Yeah, and really quickly, one more thing. Duet was a perfect example of this kind of dichotomy of right and wrong and the gray areas of it.
In the Pale Moonlight.
And In the Pale Moonlight is another one.
Boldly going in such a relatable way.
Thank you so much.
Nana, I wanted to ask you more about your project, Women's Trek. Is there something that we can go on Amazon or somewhere, you know, to get a copy of?
The book is being written as we speak, and it's gotten delayed because of just, I can't get on the sets of Discovery or Picard and speak to the people behind the camera, in front of the camera, because, you know, of course, everything was locked down.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's delayed, but it will be on Amazon.
Okay.
And hopefully the documentary and book can come out at the same time. That would be wonderful.
It would. And then something else about DS9 that struck a chord with me was the relationship between the characters of the two Siskos. This was a very positive portrayal of a black man and his son, because essentially I'm a child of the 60s and 70s, and a lot of black men got the bad reputation of abandoning their families. And Captain Sisko did not abandon his family, and he raised his son and turned his son into a fine young man.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you.
That's something that Avery was very conscious of. That's something that he went into. That was the purpose, one of the driving forces for why he wanted to accept the role as Sisko, because he saw the importance of countering that negative imagery that's out there in show business, and he wanted to make sure that he was going to be a good father for his son and set that example going forward, that people knew that these stereotypes are not true in all cases, and there are examples that defy those, and that's what he set out to do. So I'm grateful that the guidance, the wisdom that he brought to the table translated on screen, and I just followed his lead. So yes, thanks to Avery.
And were you aware at the time of how hard he fought not to die at the end, because he did not want to be a father leaving his son in that way?
I am aware of that, and he wasn't happy with dying at the end. So I know that was a big thing for him.
Well, but he didn't die, so he's watching over you. I mean, that was what he got. That's as far as what he got. Now he's an orb, but you know.
Yes.
I would settle for that if I could watch over my two boys as an orb. It's like if I'm there somehow.
I would not settle for that as a friend. I would be, I'm gonna kick your ass. You're not touching her.
Well, I thought it was a perfect setup for the films, if we were going to do a film, that they could have explained that a little further. But it's left up in the air and open-ended, so we all have to kind of make our own endings in our head canon at this point. But he definitely got that message across, and that was his goal. So I'm happy that he did.
We have time for one, maybe two more questions, so. Yes.
When doing Rejoined, you know Rejoined, were you
Yes.
aware of like the impact it would have, what it meant long term?
Yes, we discussed it before we did it. They came up to me to make sure that I was comfortable with the storyline, and for me, I felt like I was representing all of my friends that were gay, so I felt, yeah, and I love that, thank you. Actually, one of our producers, Steve Oster, handed it to me a couple weeks before they even started casting for Lenara, and I sat in on some of the casting sessions, which weren't super helpful because quite a few of the actresses would leave the room and say, "I've always wanted to kiss you," or flirt with me, and it was like, okay, no. That's not what this is about.
That was me, by the way.
I
didn't get the part.
I thought so. That was a really good wig.
And Max and I watch that over and over and over.
Well, see, that's what was interesting. Here we go. Avery directed that episode, and he was the integrity of the story and not losing the love in the kiss. He made sure that he shot it so that they couldn't cut it apart and make it look smaller than it was. Because we're talking about, I mean, I was a man who widowed my wife, and I had widowed her because I was careless. And here was my second chance to make it up to her. And so when I fall back in love with her, I have to be honest, I just watched it at the Skirball a couple of weeks ago with Scott Mance. He invited me to come up, and we had an auditorium filled with people. We watched it and then we discussed it. That's why it's so fresh on my mind. And it was interesting to me to watch it back and talk about how relevant having her shift, oh my gosh, my mind went for two different directions, but the love was hugely relevant in that it was protected, that our gender was protected. It didn't matter that we were the same gender. When Kira says, well, they were married, it's no one says they were a man and woman. Oh no, but they're two women now. They didn't. That's what the beauty of Star Trek, right? They didn't make that the story. The story was, it was the integrity of the symbiont that we were protecting, and that we were being careless about for our own gratification. And watching it back just a couple weeks ago, I saw how I was very masculine and trying to control having her back. I gave her an ultimatum. If you leave, this isn't gonna happen. And I was like, wow. I mean, I haven't done it for, 25 years? But to watch it and see how out of control Dax was in trying to get what she wanted or it wanted, it was like, wow, I would have told her to run too. But it's amazing on so many levels, that story. Yeah, I was really proud to do it. Proud to do it. It upset my boyfriend at the time, but I was proud to do it.
Unfortunately, we're out of time. I want to thank all of you for coming, and I want to thank Terry, Nana, Cirroc, Casey, Max, and Chase, and all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.